we've been conditioned to believe that our banker is a trusted advisor inside of your operation. You are doing something massively wrong if you are letting your bank tell you how your operation is doing. Guys, that is the furthest thing from the truth. The bank is an investor, not a business partner, so treat him like that.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farm, the podcast. I'm your host, JC Young, and today I'm actually interviewing one of our newest business coaches, Jen Erickson. Jen comes from Montana and an extensive background and from a long-term career in banking and finance. And so she just recently joined the team, which is why I'm interviewing her today. So let's get to the conversation, and I hope you enjoy it.
My starting point was I grew up in ag. So my parents still live in Illinois. My dad farms a small row crop farm, corn and soybeans. He was a part of a large hog operation for several years. I think he just got out of that actually, because he's getting ready to retire at some point. I then went down to the Illinois State University and got my bachelor's degree in agriculture and a minor in finance. And then I transferred to Montana State University and got my master's degree in agriculture there with a emphasis on reproductive physiology in cattle. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Going from Illinois to Montana, though, that's a big jump there. So what was the reason behind that decision?
Well, this is funny. This is kind of a funny story. Speaking of being young and impressionable. So when I was at Illinois State University, I was in an animal nutrition class. And one of the gentlemen that was the professor there was Dr. Paul Walker. And one of his buddies, Jerry Lipsey of the Simmental Association here in Bozeman, Montana, was looking for a graduate student. And I happened to, as an undergrad, work in Dr. Walker's lab for him, which is a special invite only for his A students is what he would call us. But so I got that invitation, and then he made the call that I was going to have a change of region and scenery, and it would be good for me to get out of Illinois and experience some life in Montana. I do have some cousins here that I grew up visiting, so I was like, okay, well, I'll go. But I told him, I said, you know, there's nothing there in Montana. He goes, oh, you'll be fine. So, and here I am, like 20 years later. So
yeah, 20 years later, you decided to stay there and start your life there and everything. So when did you move into ag finance or banking, after you finished college and everything?
So banking kind of found me by accident. My cousins that do live here, she was in real estate when I was finishing up my master's degree. So it was right after I had finished my project, written my thesis, and I had yet to defend my thesis. So there's like this gap in there usually. I was in a car accident, a pretty severe car accident, and broke my neck.
What year was that?
It would have been 2003.
Okay.
And so my professor, who was an amazing guy, he extended my grant at that point in time and allowed me to stay and work and finish the work I needed to do on my paper and my project to submit it to defend it. And so she said, well, I said, they're paying my grant, but they're only paying half. I need to be able to make some more money. And she said, well, why don't you go be somebody's loan assistant? I think you'd be really good at that. So I became somebody's loan assistant, and
Where was that at? Was that at Farm Credit or just a community bank?
just a community bank.
Okay.
And so we did a lot of real estate notes, some commercial lending, and then it would have been 5 years later, 3 or 4 years later, actually, I went to Stockman Bank of Montana, and I was there for almost 7 years. They do agricultural lending, but I was more so in the commercial and real estate side.
Okay.
And then I went to I did some accounting, of nonprofit accounting, and then I ended up at Farm Credit for 5 years.
Very
And
good.
so, yeah.
So when did you, how old were you when you started at Farm Credit then? Just so I can get the timeline straight.
I would have been 40.
Okay. All right, great. So out of all those experiences there, right, each one probably had a unique experience and taught you different things. Which one do you think was like the most valuable to you and really got you prepared to lead in ag finance and have the discussions that you're having today with all of our customers inside of Legacy Farmer?
That's a great question. I would say my experience at Stockman Bank was really pivotal. I had a great manager. He's now the regional manager for this area, and I still have good talks with him. He was a mentor of mine, and really taught me the basics of business, taught me the basics of finance, and really let me hone my skills and how to talk to customers and even have really tough conversations, but still be respectful and empathetic and understanding to the situation. And I think that's made a really big impact, not only here at Legacy Farmer, but when I stepped into my role at Farm Credit as the branch manager.
And I always tell people, like with my story specifically, the reason I was a bad banker wasn't because I didn't know numbers or anything like that. It's just because whenever I had customers come in sitting across the desk from me, and I know that they don't know the weight and the risk of the decision that they're making, and I know they don't truly understand that, I feel like I'm talking to my parents.
Yeah.
So the empathetic side of me wants to come out, or I guess, the caring side of me wants to come out and really tell these people, hey, you need to understand what can happen if you don't make the right decision here, or you're not, strategic in doing it, or really considering all the variables here, and, third and fourth order consequences from this decision as well. And it's just because my parents and my family as well.
Well, and I think we care so much.
Mhm.
And I have really close relationships with a lot of my customers, even at Farm Credit. I still talk to some of
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
just because I sat at their dining room tables
Yep.
and listened to, everything that was going on with their lives and how hard it was, and did my very best to serve them
Yeah.
and help them. And I know they know that, and when I left, they all wished me well and understood. But it was tough conversations because I got so attached to them, and I can sense that yes, I'm not sitting right in front of our customers here at Legacy Farmer, but I can still sense that, and I can still feel how they're feeling and how they're coming across.
Even if it's a video call, you can feel the energy through the call,
Ab-
right? Based on their body language, what their face looks like, and stuff like that. Especially with the customers that I've worked with over the years, that I've had consistent meetings with, I can tell.
Yeah.
Right? 'Cause I've seen them at their highs, I've seen them at their lows, and we've had to go through those challenges regardless. Yeah. So, but all right, I'm curious. Have you ever had to go through foreclosure of a customer?
I have not. I had one that was close,
Mhm.
but his parents came in with a Hail Mary.
By what do you mean?
Um,
Hail Mary.
they sold a piece of ground.
Okay. Okay. Hail Mary or sacrifice? Big
Basically,
sacrifice.
yeah, a big sacrifice.
Yeah.
And when you have to make that decision to help that situation out, but they would rather see the majority of the operation survive than rather see it all go away.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, you think about the parents and stuff like that, especially if it's a, second, third, or fourth generation operation, they're selling ground that may have not had a lien against it for
Ever.
what? Yeah, 60, 80 years and stuff like that, And so the other challenging side of that, though, too, is that if the younger generation didn't have to pay off that ground, man, they don't understand the weight of what their parents just did for them as well. Right. So thinking on that, did you ever have any situations where you were dealing with that with younger borrowers coming back? They got mom and dad there backing them and stuff like that. Did you have to go through any conversations there trying to make them understand what they had in front of them and how fortunate they were, but also try to get them to the point where they respected it as well?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, most definitely. At Farm Credit, we had a program called the Young Beginning Small program, and we called it at Ag West, we called it the Ag Vision program. So I met with a lot of young farmers that are entering or coming back to the farm, with great parents that were great farmers and knew what they were doing. They built obviously a very good, successful business, and I would point them out and just say, for an example, show them an example business starting out with a young farmer when he didn't have the same opportunities,
Mhm.
because the numbers speak.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
That's
and looking at the numbers today, do you truly feel like a young farmer could come back and start from ground zero with no collateral to pledge to get started? We got the beginner farmer loans and stuff like that, but what's your opinion on that?
It would be very hard.
Mhm.
And the reason why I say that is because of the price of ground
Yep.
and the price of leases. And I have seen some really good lease agreements. I've seen some really awful lease agreements and some crop share situations where they would never make any money. I've talked to them out of those types of crop share situations,
Yep.
even though getting more acres seems like it would be profitable. When you actually run the numbers, it was not. And to see the defeat on their face was heartbreaking.
Yep. Yep.
But it ultimately saved them so that they could continue to operate, because when you're working with those types of customers, the margin for error is very slim.
So small. So small. And that's why I've always told customers there too, because that question comes up all the time, right? Well, what if I just wanted to get started farming today? It's like, I'm just thinking, like, good luck, man. Like, you
Yeah.
literally, your margin for error is you get 1 year. That's
Yeah.
it. 1 year, you lose a good amount of money and you're done. Versus, the guys that have some equity on their balance sheet, they can stretch it, 4 or 5 years or, however long
Yeah.
they go there. But for those new guys, man, this is a very tough industry to get into with extremely high prices and very low profit margins. And that, and you're, if you can even say that, hey, I do have a consistent, steady low profit margin, you're in the top 1%. And that's what's crazy.
Yeah. But you look at it also in the programs that the government has set up, it's not even set up for the increased prices in real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the loan limit for FSA? 600,000?
Yep.
I mean, that's supposed to be 50% of a purchase price. I'm sorry. I don't know of any farm ground around me that at one.
Yeah. You may have to come out to Western Kansas for you and you'll get some tips out here. But definitely not where you're at and the guys up, Iowa, Illinois, that area there. That just wouldn't even work. And so that's what's always been cool, for me to learn how these different operations, function. But also too, with those guys up north, I'm still sitting there looking at, even the bushels that they're raising, which yes, they raise a lot more than what we do in Kansas here, but I'm still like, man, that $22,000 ground still does not cash flow.
Mhm.
And so the problems just exist everywhere. But the other concern here that I have, and I guarantee you've experienced this too, is that the numbers are getting so big for a lot of these guys, and especially the young producers. I'm worried that they're stepping into the industry and the numbers as big as they are become normal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean there?
So, like, the price of inputs.
Mhm.
They look at the price of their inputs and, oh, Canon Fert this year was 100,000 on 120 acres, and you're like, "What?"
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And to them, if they don't know any different or they haven't had any experiences of lower prices before, I'm like, we're kind of setting them up for failure here too, where it's becoming more and more gambling year after year.
Well, and it brings back the point to input prices right now, Jace, and the price of commodities.
Yep.
I've been having some conversations, and correct me if I'm right or wrong here, but what I have found and what I've told several people, and I have had a customer, huge hay customers here in Montana. Okay, why are we pushing for such high production rates and using as much chemical and fertilizer that are at their all-time highest
Mhm.
so that we can sell one more ton per acre?
Yep.
What if we did 4.5 or 5 tons per acre instead of the 6 or 6.5? How much money would we save
Yeah.
versus what we're not going to make?
Yeah. So why do you think guys are focused on that? I'm just curious.
Because it's ingrained in their head. They're so competitive. I don't care. Farmers are humble people, yes, but they're also very competitive.
Yeah.
Or if you've ever been to a Midwest basketball game, but
Oh yeah. There's a few surrounding towns that I would have dropped a bomb in back in the day. Because we were such competitive rivals there. But yeah, so that's the thing is we get blinded by just reality and what the facts are.
yeah,
And we start chasing revenue versus chasing profit. And the other thing that I've seen though too over the years, and we've had this in several conversations on community calls and legacy farmer over the years too, is that when guys have losses year after year after year, and now all of a sudden they have these term payments, and it's obviously, as you know, it makes a huge difference terming out those losses against equipment versus terming it out against real estate there on what that repayment plan is. For the guys that don't have the real estate equity and they just have the equipment equity, which is a lot of people today, that 5 to 7 year payment forces them now to not even think about profit. And now all we're shooting for is revenue, not because it's going to generate more income, but literally just to make payments. And that is a deathly cycle for our customers and any farmers to get into that I consistently see year after year. And this is the other thing too, like in the bank as well, the banks that continue just to refinance the losses year after year, right? I mean, I've had some people come in and say they've had to restructure their balance sheet every single year the past 5 or 6 years. I'm like, if that doesn't just scream red flags to you, and not even on the borrower standpoint, but on the bank standpoint as well. Why is the bank still allowing them to do that? And just basically, they're solving the immediate issue, which is operating for next year, but they're not actually solving the foundational, deep rooted issue there, which is the behaviors of that customer and how they're making financial decisions.
mhm. And why are they making those types of financial decisions? And sometimes there are valid reasons. I mean, I've watched a gentleman where he invested in a hay stacking company in 2023. What happened to hay prices? It's 2023.
Yeah.
So, so you look at that and goes, that's probably not the best decision, Jen. And I was like, hey, but you didn't know. I said 2022 was one of the best hay years
Yeah.
that we had.
Yeah.
I said, so we're going to chalk this up. We're going to make some accommodations. We know what we need to do to remain profitable, but here's also some things we need to take a look at. And you look at some of these guys' cash flows, and machinery and equipment is insane.
Ungodly. Yeah.
And some of them have, I started a rule of thumb with most of my guys, and I always used to say, if it's sat there for 2 or 3 years and you haven't touched it and it's not for parts, you need to get rid of it. And sometimes they go out and they do an assessment of how much machinery and equipment they have, and we're like, I didn't even know I still had this.
Didn't even know. Yeah. Didn't
And
even
I'm
know.
like, that's money sitting right there. That could be
Yep.
paying down your high interest debt. And just tons of situations like that. And, getting them to know their numbers in regards to one thing I love about our cash flow budgets we always have those percentages set up
Yep.
of their expenses and their revenue. And so they know how much that they're spending percentage wise in their business and what those key metrics mean and where that red flag should start.
It changes the context of that entire conversation there. And like when when we were building the software and that idea came to me, I'm like, this is a completely different way to make the weight of the numbers felt at a much deeper level versus just seeing 250,000 for expenses on fertilizer or whatever on your annual cash flow. But then seeing that, hey, that's, 15% of total revenue. It's like, man, okay, it makes the number hit a little bit more there. And the reason too, I'll give another example here as well. You all know, I mean, just as well as I do, in small towns, you're loyal to the co-op, you're loyal to the local guys. And okay, appreciate all that and respect all that and everything there. But back in 2021 and 2022, when we saw input prices increasing 200 to 300% across the board there, and these guys trying to figure out how they're going to pay their fertilizer bill, that's the year that we actually added in that percentage there. And that is exactly what I needed to get guys to cross the emotional hurdle
Mm-hmm.
in their brain to say, okay, I don't care what the local co-op is doing. I'm going to price shop this. And I had one guy one afternoon down in Arkansas, made one call, saved $225,000 on his fertilizer bill in one call.
Yep.
So
I,
you just look at the numbers differently. It just exposes different things for you.
I had a gentleman haul his in from another state and saved more money.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. So anyways, yeah, it's all about how you package and position them though. But all right, well, let's jump back to the bank there. What were some of the things you didn't like about the bank, Jen?
From just from a banking standpoint, it was the number. I wouldn't say the number of customers because I loved all my customers, but it was the short amount of time that I got to spend with them. I never felt like I had enough time to um, accurately or completely solve their problem or help them find the issues and help them navigate that path to a really good answer. So find the issue, dig a little bit deeper, and then reverse engineer it into something that could solve the problem and make a stunning result for them.
Yeah.
Actually get them where they needed to be. It was, what I would always do is I would do spreadsheets on the side when I had time. And I would do looking at even just cost per acre and what that meant to their operation versus their peers. And what does that mean on a price per acre? If you're spending $300 an acre on equipment and repairs and your neighbor's spending 100, like what is that saying about your operation? Or your inputs or, labor is another big one. H2A workers is another big one. Helping them solve those types of issues and finding really good results after identifying those issues. I really never got the chance to see that end result. It was always like, I need my operating line renewal, or I need a piece of equipment and I need it within 2 weeks, or I need it in 30 days. And so you're just rushing. And of course I was doing my farm visits, but it was always, they were on the go.
Yep. Yeah,
And
come out. It was more annoying to them, right? So come out here. I'll show you around right quick. You can maybe check some things off and show on your balance sheet. It's a do your inspection, and that was it.
I mean, we grew up farming, so I was just like, I could appreciate, I know this is inconvenience. I'll be out of here as soon as as soon as possible. Um, but here, what I really appreciate compared to the banking is that I get their focus.
Yes, because they're choosing to be here, not with the customers that were dropped on you in the bank, just like I had, where I want to help them, but you can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped.
Exactly. They just want the loan.
Yes. And then they walk out the door and they don't want to talk to you again until next year. And that was always sat wrong with me. Always sat wrong with me because I needed the inner fulfillment to do more, but the customers had to choose it. And that's why when we started Legacy Farmer, the reason it says apply now on the website, because it literally is an application. We're not working with everybody. That's strategic for that reason, because we want people to come in here that want to get better and to improve.
Yep. And they're going to be in the top 1%.
They will. They will. And it's
That
crazy. Like for a lot of customers too, they probably think getting to that top 1% is really challenging. It's like, how am I ever going to get there?
Mhm.
I, I don't know if you've learned anything since being here, but everything I've learned is like, it's actually very easy to be in the top 1%. Just by having simple structure and organization in your numbers and updating it on a regular basis, you're putting yourself in the top 1%.
Yeah,
No.
exactly, and I always think back, it's like, gosh, if we had something like this for the customers that I worked with at the bank,
Uh,
giving them those tools. Yes, we had excellent tools at the bank, but it's getting the time to get customers into those tools and
yeah.
showing them how to utilize them. That's the difference because
Yeah.
they're under so much pressure right now, and they're so busy.
And the reality is, I tried to do that at the bank, past couple banks that I worked at as well. But the thing was, is the way that the bank is looking at the numbers, they're taking the information that we're giving them from farmer metrics that customers are giving them, which is better than anything else they're getting. But then they're complicating it that much further based on
Mm.
how the bank board wants to be looking at things and stuff like that. So it's a little bit more complex. And those were the tools, though, that I was trying to explain to the customers, and they were too complex. And to even train them on that, it was too far over their head, which is why when we built the software, man, I wanted to keep it as stupid simple as possible so that anybody could step in and be able to understand how to use it, and that it was simple enough to where, yeah, maybe it doesn't give the bank the level of complexity that the bank needs, but guess what? It gives them the foundational numbers they need. Then they can go do whatever they want to on the back end there.
They'll gather the tax returns and get the rest that they need.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Which we can, maybe we'll add in tools like that one day, but in the immediate, I want to solve the biggest issue, which is giving our customers financial clarity that they can understand.
Absolutely, and I think the other thing at the bank that took a lot of my time was, being out in the community. That's super important for farm credit, and that was one of the most things I really enjoyed, but again, it took the time away from my customers and my ability to have more time with them and really focus on the numbers, and so there was just a lot of time spent doing a lot of other things and managing a branch, managing people that worked in the branch, and all of those things come together. And so I always tell people, I'm like, be kind to your banker. Just know that they're helping you as fast as they can. But I can also see where I can also recognize a bad, I don't want to say a bad banker, but somebody who's,
Okay. Call it what it is. It's okay. You can call it what it is. I've already taken pushback on this for years, so we're good. Okay. I've gotten bad emails and everything, so we're good.
but just, but people who are not in it for the right reason.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
they can.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is like the tough thing about being a banker in this type of industry
Mhm.
is balancing those emotions, because yeah, you're going to learn to develop especially if you were raised in ag, you have a different personal connection with these people, right? And you understand them at a deeper level, and sometimes that's what I hated about being a banker is, okay, there were times where I wanted to do what's best for the customer regardless of how it impacted the bank, but at the end of the day my paycheck was dependent upon protecting the interests of the bank too.
And I can tell you that I argued a lot with bank
Oh yeah, so did I.
for my customers, and I would defend them to the nth degree.
Yep.
And yeah, that's
And
who I am.
one situation I always struggled with was I had one specific customer. It was the only customer I ever had to go through and start foreclosure on. Multi-generational family. You could just feel the energy in the room the day that we signed the loan documents. I remember, current farmer was there, and he's the son, and he was like 45 or 50 at that time. But mom was there as well, and dad was very sick. Mom was there pledging real estate that had not had a mortgage on it for more than 100 years.
Oh,
Every you could I mean, everybody felt the energy in that room. Whereas like, okay, we're doing this, but we all know that this is not the right thing to do. And even at that time, I knew deep down, like there was no way that they were going to get out of this hole that they had dug over the past 5 or 10 years. They were moving over from another bank. We took them on. It was a $6 million credit. So I'm looking at it like, oh, well, the bank's going to make 300 to 500 grand a year in interest on this. So this is great. Maybe it'll get me a bonus at the end of the year, $2,500. Yeah. So that was awesome. But anyways, that credit, that loan customer shifted my perspective forever. And I will confidently say that was the beginning of Jace's transition out of the bank, going through that tough customer experience, because I'm like, I'm not doing what I really want to do to help these people.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it goes
So,
against your integrity. Like, it just felt wrong. Yeah.
uh and you knew it, right? Like I said, you could feel it in that room. But the other thing there too is with that customer, to get them approved, I had to go to loan committee 4 or 5 times with them. And every time loan committee, the guy's sitting there, which you know as well as I do is, not the type of room you want to be in, because it's all ego driven. It's all, whose ass can you kiss the most to be sitting on that board and stuff like that. And I look back at that. Every time I took that credit to loan committee to try to get it approved, they told me to go change numbers and adjust it so it looked better for when examiners came in.
Yep.
It's like all the red flags popping up. And so anyways, going through that experience, man, it just shifted my perspective on the industry, and especially banking and how we're leading customers forever.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it just speaks to honesty too, you know? And
yeah,
that's where I'm not a lot. I'm not a good dishonest person. I don't even know how to say it because I can't. I'm a terrible liar.
yeah, yeah,
I always have been. And so they would always say, Jen, you can't say that to them. And I'm like, why not?
yeah. And it may not be because you can't say it to them; it's because they would be uncomfortable saying it to them, so they're trying to project that onto you. Versus with obviously with what we do here, it's like, hey, I'm gonna fact
And I would
Phoenix.
exactly. And I would just say they need to know this,
Yes,
whether we like it or not. And yeah.
the cost of not knowing it and taking action because of it is going to be far greater. And so if there's 2 different outcomes, and one is going to end up with them losing the farm, or one is going to end up with them hating me in the meantime, because I told them the brutal truth that's going to
Yep.
spark some fire in them and some reaction in them that cause them to take some action. I'll do that. That's the,
Yep.
price of leadership and what we want, obviously, our business coaches to be doing here. So, all right. Well, when you're looking at, obviously you came over from Farm Credit and, joined us as a business coach and everything there. What were the biggest, reasons as to why you did that? Because obviously you're well established at Farm Credit, leading your own branch. You have, good customer base, and you're running things the way you want to, but you still made the shift though to come over here and be a business coach with us at Legacy Farmer. So what were the biggest reasons that kind of contributed to that?
Well, I would say one of the biggest reasons is exactly what we've been talking about, is having that focused time with our customers, having that one-on-one availability, the time to really dive deep into their numbers with them and help them find the mistakes that are going on, or the leaky hole in the operation, to get them turned around, or to open up their eyes to maybe some mistakes on their QuickBooks. I've had that happen in the last couple weeks here, and they're going, "What?" I said,
Yep.
"Well, this is why we can't reconcile. This is," and it's
Yep.
pretty significant, you know?
Not a small number there either.
No, and so it's getting to get that impact on a daily basis. The second big thing, it would be my family. This allows me to be home more. It allows me to have a schedule that is more fitting to me and my children, and growing just a healthy family and having a healthier work-life balance.
Yeah.
Uh, because I would say working at the bank, it taught me a lot. Farm Credit was great to me. And I will be forever thankful to them and to my customers that allowed me into their operations.
Yep.
But it got to the point where I was working so many hours, I was leading towards burnout. And I think that's where a lot of people, they see a good banker, they want to work with a good banker, but that
Yep.
banker gets burned out.
Yep. And that's what I've told customers for years too. I'm like, guys, all the great bankers that you guys are searching for, they already have $200 to $300 million loan portfolios. They're tapped. They can't take on any more customers. So, that's a tough part of the industry there. So the next question I have for you is, have you noticed any kind of landscape changes in banking over, your past 10 to 15 years?
Yes. I would say one of the biggest ones is the credit conservancy of banks. I would also say in commercial banking, When agriculture is good, they all want in. When agriculture goes down, they all want out.
Yep.
So I caution people in the ag industry to, if they're going to go to a local bank, okay, why are you going?
Mhm.
Is this really a strategic move? Yes, they're giving you all of these incentives right now, but do they understand how your cash flow cycle is going to work? And when commodity prices go down and inputs go high, how are they going to work with you?
Yep. Yep. When you talk about credit conservancy, elaborate on that a little bit there for our listeners.
So I would say I have seen over the years, um, I'll talk to what we talk about when people first get on with us, the loan to value ratio and their borrowing power. They're getting the advance rate has gone from probably 75%. Farm credit, we would be at 60
Mhm.
on real estate.
Yep.
So it's a 40%
In Montana.
in Montana.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So see, just like that though, that was a huge learning curve for me because we had customers come in from California that were at 50 to 55. And I'm like,
Yeah.
because out in Kansas, it's 75, 80 across the board.
Yeah, and it's because of, the type of properties that we have out here. So they look at it from a credit underwriting standpoint of how many customers are out there that would be qualified enough to purchase this from us if they were to default.
Got it. Yeah. Which makes sense, right? So if you like the thing is too, is like as our customers have come into Legacy Farmer and we continue to share more and more about how the bank's looking at their numbers, if they were in the bank's shoes, they would probably be thinking about the same thing as well. And it's all about incentives at the end of the day. And the more I can understand the incentives of all the players in the game, whether it's the banker, the accountant, the dealership, whatever that is there, the more I
Yep.
can position myself to win.
Well, and I always tell people this and my farmers this. I said, "So if roles were reversed here and you were lending me your money, what would you wanna know about me?"
Uh-huh.
And they go, "Ooh, that's a good question."
Yep. Yes, it's a great way. So the three things I always talk about is it matters how you package, how you position, and ultimately how you present your finances. And I've used that example so many times with customers. I said, if I asked you guys to invest into Legacy Farmer and I brought you a half-assed balance sheet that I just got from last year, and all I did was mark out the numbers in pencil and then initial next to them, and then put together an annual cash flow there, would you give me $1 million?
Mhm.
Every time it's the same, absolutely not. Okay, great, guys. So treat your business the same way. The bank is an investor, not a business partner. So treat him like that.
Yep.
Oh, so,
Yeah.
but
It's all I think, especially with credit underwriting, I think we could see it get even more a little bit harsher. I think, on real estate deals, it's more than just saying, "Oh, I have water rights to this." It's okay, you need to prove those water rights and the ownership of those rights and the ownership of that equipment, including the pump. If the pump's on the neighbor's land, do you have an easement that you have continuous access to that? Is it a 5-year easement? And we're gonna have to worry about that because 'cause we're putting a 20-year note on your land.
mhm,
And so, I mean, I think there's a lot more things where I ran into even the last couple years with customers is needing more documentation where before we did not.
yeah.
It was the proofs in the pudding.
But also too, that goes back to presentation, right?
Yep.
And so to me, I always tell the customers or have over the years, like, hey guys, everything that you think they might want to see to justify whatever decision you're trying to make or whatever loan you're trying to get approved, present that to limit questions coming back, right? And back and forth and increase loan approval speed. But I was like, you are drastically increasing trust with that bank. And they
Absolutely.
will be able to move so much faster for you in the future because they know that you're protecting your interest as the borrower, but you're also thinking through their lens as well and protecting their interest too. And when you get that, you have that solid trust there and you're going to be able to just move so much faster with future deals or and things like
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And it's building that trust right away. They can trust those numbers. That's the whole point of it. And I know when I was in banking with my credit analysts and even my loan specialist, we would go over everything 2, 3 times. So we only had to go back to the customer once. If we had to go back more than that, we just felt like awful. We were just bothering them. They are super busy. But it was again down to the presentation of their numbers, their financials. It was sometimes almost too much. And we had questions, a lot of questions.
Yep. Yep. And to me though, too, and it's one of the other questions I'll ask you here pretty soon, but
Mm.
if you are just getting consistent yeses from your banker without any follow-up questions, that's a massive red flag for me.
Oh yeah.
Massive red flag for me on the bank, not on the customer, on the bank.
Mm-hmm.
for not following up and really doing the due diligence that they need, which means that loan officer is not really respecting the capital that he's getting ready to distribute from the bank to that customer.
Like, where is this going?
I know. I know. And the thing is too, the other side of that coin that I found over the years too is that if you don't do that with the customer from the beginning of the relationship, you are conditioning them and training them that, hey, we don't need a lot of stuff. Just
Mm.
give us your real estate, just give us your half-ass balance sheet. But then the moment economy gets tight, profit margins go down, you see banks start pulling back on their lending. All of a sudden, customers getting pretty pissed off because you're asking more questions, but it's at the bank's fault there.
No. And so, and I was just talking to a customer this week. He's got a little bit of working capital, but then, we work more further into the numbers. And oh yeah, I have purchased quite a bit of equipment on my operating line. I said,
In the operating line.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I was like, I love you guys, but come on. Okay. So then we go over how to use an operating line properly. And then I prepare him to say, okay, now we understand why our working capital is negative. I want you to put together all of the invoices you have for the items that you purchased. If you don't have the invoice, write it down on a list with the date and the sales price
Yep.
and the serial number and what you need for that piece of equipment. And then you're going to go in and you're going to ask for a term loan to term out that money off your operating line.
And then, hey, Mr. Farmer, I want you to understand why you should be pissed off about this because you bought that piece of equipment back in 2021 or 2022 when you could have financed it at 4%. But congratulations, now today you get to finance it at 8.5%, and the bank made money off of you every single year, and it was the best loan for them.
Oh, yeah. Or they use their operating line where they just take distributions till it's maxed out. Everything goes in the checking account. I calculated one the other day, $90,000 in interest a year. I said, they should put a plaque up in your name because you're paying for somebody's salary.
Yep. I know. Yeah, and the guys too. Again, if we're not having these conversations, they don't even know. They truly don't know, and that's something else that just kind of blew my mind. And again, I'm not trying to talk down on people or anything like that.
No.
Farming and ranching and just ag in general is one of the toughest businesses in the world because you're asked to be an expert in so many different areas.
Yeah.
I think about what we do. We get to master the business and financial side. Great, that's my only focus there. With a farmer, you got to master the business and financial side. Then you got to master the tax planning side. Then you got to be an agronomist and you got to be able to raise a good crop. Then you got to know just how logistics and all this stuff works. Like it's just a complicated mess there.
And don't forget to market your grain.
Grain marketing, crop insurance strategy. Yeah, another two key critical things that didn't even pop in my mind there because it's long. And so finding those trusted advisors there, obviously that's what we're trying to really build our product and everything off of. But I think at the foundation of it all, if you can just get sound structured numbers there, it's going to make your life a lot easier in every other area there too.
Yeah, and I would say, at least at the Farm Credit that I have been at, Farm Credit really teaches their customers how to utilize their operating line correctly. And they view their financials very well. And for that, I'm thankful. I learned a lot about that from them. So, but that's why I love being here because now I can take that expertise and bring it to the customers and really make an impact in agriculture. That's what was missing for me.
Because they're choosing it.
Right.
And they want to learn and want to grow and stuff like that. And it changes everything there, especially as a teacher and a leader that you're being too. When the student wants to learn, man, awesome.
Well, and to see them succeed, I don't think they realize as the coaches here, at Legacy Farmer, that's what we're here for. We want to see you succeed.
Yep.
It's like our supervisor Lance. He's always like, we're assembling the misfits, and I'm like, kind of like a Marvel team,
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it really is like every freaking business coach we have on here. That's why me and Lance got along so well before he came into Legacy Farmer too, is because we both had the same viewpoints and opinions on, and some shared experiences just on working in the bank. Some things that just rubbed us the wrong way, and like, hey, we want to do more and do better and try to make a bigger impact in the industry. So that kind of leads me to my next question for you is, what are some of the biggest red flags that you saw in the bank? And this can be on the customer side of things or on the bank side of things.
Oh, that's a great question. I would say on the customer side of things, it would be constantly needing an advancement in the middle of the growing season, not knowing that ahead of time. or
Plan for it.
right, not
Yep.
planning forward, making huge business decisions and maxing out their operating line even before planting. So making an expansion decision,
Yep.
or going and buying a ton of equipment, and then making the decision to go, oh, I don't have enough to buy my chemical and fertilizer. And now I'm going to call Jen.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I need to know this stuff before it happens. That is logistically, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to increase your operating line of credit.
Yeah.
And now I have
Okay.
to get all these financials from you and start the process over.
Yeah. Were they pulling the trigger before they actually had approval from the bank?
Yes.
Yes. Massive problem.
Yep. And I'm just like, you can't shoot from the hip. And I would tell them that, and we say that here at Legacy Farmer, but it's so true nowadays because things, back to our original discussion, things cost so much these days. One purchase can be the difference between having the funds to grow, put the crop in the ground or not.
Yep.
And that's the logistics these young farmers are coming up against that are coming to take over the farm. From the banking side of thing, I want to say the red flags I see are different opinions from different people about different borrowers. There can be inconsistencies. Someone may say, "Yeah, I think we would lend to them all day long," and someone else may say, "No, I don't." And it's like, why is there so much there can be so much inconsistency when the loan officer believes in them 100%.
Mhm. Yeah. So based on, your viewpoint there and your opinion, where are the inconsistencies coming from? Why do you have one loan officer
I think it's
committee that's all about it and one that's completely against it?
conservative, just being conservative and really wanting to follow those guidelines and those procedures and be inside that box. I have always been one that does not fit inside the box all the way. I like
Yep.
to do little zigzags
Yep.
because it's in the best interest of the customer. Um, and I would have really good arguments, and it would take 2 or 3 calls to get everybody on the same page. But it was exactly like what you experienced, changing the numbers to make it look good.
Yeah.
And I'm going, but this isn't reality.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's going to be able to do this.
God, I remember putting in FSA prices on that customer because this was back in 2015. So FSA prices were higher than actual prices because, there's a lag that's coming behind. But the bank standard was, yeah, we use FSA prices versus what cash market prices are. And like, so my first presentation was with cash market prices and really showing what the truth of the numbers were. And then they're like, well, why aren't you using FSA prices? That's $1 higher on wheat. It's like, well, because that's not reality. And it's like, well, you need to do that because that's what we need to present to the examiners. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay. And then we did that and took on a loan and contributed to the downfall of a family operation, multi-generational,
Like, high five,
I know. But, back on the customer side of things though, too, for those that went through and basically purchased things
Yeah.
without going through, the right process and everything there, how did
Yeah.
that make you feel from a banker standpoint?
It just made me feel like I wasn't a part of their team,
Okay.
and that I wasn't a trusted advisor. It's always what we touted at AgWest, at Farm Credit, and
Yeah.
and we truly are. I mean, the people there are a lot. Almost everybody I worked with was amazing, amazing people, ag people. That they like to hire ag people, and really wanted to be that trusted advisor. But again, then it goes back to that time frame and that time crunch. And you have some customers that don't want to wait for an answer. They want to just, but they in their mind and their numbers and their head, it's all here, it's
Yep.
on paper. It made perfect sense. And now they're looking at not having the money to put their crop in the ground.
Yep. And all of a sudden they have to go through. They should have built out the game plan before they ever made the purchase. And now they're trying to backtrack and build out the game plan after. And it's always works out to where it's in the middle of the busiest part of the year. They're swamped. They don't have time to think about numbers. You're trying to get financials back and get
Yep.
updated cash flow projections. It just never works.
And if the numbers are tough, then you're meeting with them 2 or 3, 4 times.
Yep.
And they're going, "Why are we having to do this?" And I said, "Well, because you made this decision and you need more money, and here we are. And
Yep.
I don't want you to be in this position, but I also have to follow rules, right?"
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
I can't
we were strapped at the bank on what we could and couldn't do and what the time frame was on things and everything like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and they haven't. I tell people that when they get frustrated sometimes, "Well, I haven't heard back from them." I said, "Well, from the day of your application, they usually have 30 days to before they need to give you a loan commitment or a decision."
Yeah. Yeah. But also too, what everything when I was taking in customers and stuff like that, when we start talking about the bank, I always dug into to try to understand what their current relationship was with that bank at that moment in time. Because there were certain things that happened. Either the bank conditioned them, or most likely they conditioned the bank that, hey, I am one type of customer. And and for most of them, is unstructured, disorganized, didn't get you updated, accurate financials and stuff like that. I was like, so you need to understand, it's like any relationship, your marriage, if you've ruined trust from the get-go, it's going to take years to build it back. So be consistent, be disciplined with updating your numbers. I've always told customers, send it in on a monthly basis, at the very latest a quarterly basis. But if you're updating it monthly, go ahead and send it in. Not because they're asking for it, but just because you want them to know that you're on top of your numbers.
Oh, I can't even tell you what that would have meant to me with
Oh
so my
man,
worse.
it was so much easier, so much easier. And you and it just builds, the for my customers that did do that, the ones that did it, I was so appreciative of them. I was willing to go to bat for them
Oh, yeah.
as they were putting in the effort.
They were putting the effort and they knew their numbers and you trusted what they said. And I think that was the biggest part for me is, um, I never had anybody where it wasn't true, but the amount of digging and, what do I wanna call it, like Magnum PI work that we had to do to
Yep.
make sure that it was true, um, it took everybody's time, and so if I'm spending an hour on somebody's loan, if I'm spending an hour on somebody's loan because they were organized and had all their stuff together versus 8 hours on yours because you're disorganized and not
Mhm.
have all your stuff together, who am I gonna go to bat for more?
Yep. Absolutely. And I mean, to me, it's common sense, right? But to most farmers, ranchers, ag businesses out there, they don't think about it that way because they've never been taught to look through the lens of the banker, right?
Yeah.
And how they're ultimately positioning themselves there. Crazy that we
Mhm.
live in that time and everything. All right. Well, so kind of wrapping up the podcast and everything. What's are the biggest things or experiences from your life, Jen, that motivate you to do the work that you do every day here? Because I know how much you care about it. I talked to Lance about this stuff, and I know where your heart's at and how much you care about the customers and everything there. What are some of those experiences that has just forged this motivation for you?
Well, I think it goes back to even when I was, a little girl. I saw my dad, get the family farm sold out from underneath his feet and start over.
Yep.
I have watched Neighbors. I've watched, I don't know if this goes way back, but in '97, when hog prices tanked, I'm sure some of the people listening will know this. It wasn't even worth feeding hogs. And so you watch some of our best friends go out back and shoot their pigs or not feed them or get, it was an awful time. And we ended up having a really good contract save us with some people we went to church with and my godparents and stuff. And so we were very blessed in that aspect. But just growing up and knowing agricultural people at the heart, going to church with them, um, being raised around people like that was probably the best thing, to give me that sense of they're the hardest working people, that I know. They're also probably the last line of defense in freedom for food in America.
Yep.
And I tell a lot of people this, but in my views, and this is my opinion, our small and medium farms and ranches, um, they're not each other's competition anymore. Their competition is big corporations.
Mm.
And I always say, are the big corporations, is the CEO of the big corporation worried about, all of the things that he's doing in a day or the things that he's got to go work in the field or do all the dirty work? No. He's looking at how can I make this bigger? How can I expand? How can I make more money? I could buy that guy's ground.
Mhm.
He's not going to care where those inputs came from. He's not going to care anything about that. He just wants that bottom line to move up.
Yep.
And so, when I think about that, that's a sore spot for me. I don't wanna see that. I don't wanna see small family and medium-sized farms go away. I just don't.
Yep. And unfortunately, we're going to do everything we can, the legacy farmer, to try to help. But there's 1.8 million farms in America. That's a big, big freaking problem there, and that's just in America.
I
Oh,
know,
and
and
all these families there.
people don't realize that. I don't really think they realize 1.8 million farms are feeding how many millions of people.
Yep. And hundreds, if not thousands, are going under every single year.
If you're not worried about your food, you should be.
Yep. So The other thing here, though, too, that you talked about with this guy and how he's kind of planning out into the future. I always talked with customers about this, is that they need to understand that when the numbers get structured and organized there, what we're actually doing is creating space and increasing our time horizon. And what I mean by that is there's no more quick decisions.
Yeah.
Right? We have patience there. There's some planning that actually comes into play there. Whereas the guy that you're talking about that's running the corporate operation there, his time horizon is 5 to 10 years out. He's thinking that long into the future because he has enough of a financial foundation and the numbers to where he can afford to do that.
Yeah.
And when you don't have that, you're worried about when, next week, next month, next year. That's it. That's as far as those time horizons go out.
Can I make my payments next month?
I know.
You know, and it speaks to, I'm talking a lot about this the past couple weeks with customers is your operating line right sized for your operation and how we look at that.
Yep. And most of them before they came in here, they didn't know. The amount of customers we've had come in over the years to where they just let the bank tell them what they needed to operate with. It's like, guys, yeah, no wonder you've been so stressed out and you're taking all this stress out and the emotions out on your family or on your kids or whatever that is there, just because you don't have the structure and organization, your numbers that you need to, so that you know them, not so you're expecting the banker to tell you.
Right. And the other thing is watching the confidence and self-esteem come back into their faces and their eyes
Yep.
because they now know.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to make that appointment for tomorrow and I'm going to go talk to them. And I'm like, yeah, you are.
Also, the fire is lit under their ass to go do things that they've wanted to do for a long time, right?
Exactly.
Shoot. All right. Well, so you're working with a lot of families and stuff like that. This is the final question. What do you hope that the families and stuff that you work with, what do you hope their results are? What do you hope they feel after working with Jen as a coach?
I hope they feel uh, understood, validated, confident in their numbers and in their business, confident in the team members and the plan that we put together, and then looking towards success at the end of it, knowing that there's a plan in place to get there.
Yep. Yeah, because you think about that though too. Most people before they come in here, they couldn't even see the roadmap to where they wanted to go to. There was no way they could even envision it or paint it in their mind. Whereas, yeah, I've seen the same thing time and time again. You get the foundational numbers put together, and now all of a sudden we start building the plan off of that, and you see their eyes open up, fire gets lit a little bit, and it's like, shit, I can see this. What we wanted, I can see it becoming a reality now.
Yep, it's go time. And then it's exciting. That's what I tell them. It's just so exciting to watch this come to fruition. So
Yeah, super cool. And it's super cool for you as a business coach to get the validation back from customers too. And that's where it'll be really just be meaningful.
this
And
feels
honestly,
good,
yeah,
you know?
make you
Really
tear up
good.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. All right, Jen. Well, thanks so much for joining me on today's podcast. I know everybody will enjoy listening to it.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Jace.
All right.